Wagwan YouTube, it's Naleen, your Jamaican scholar, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing some tips about preparing for natural childbirth. Now, if you don't know, my son Leighton was born in February of this year, and I was induced, but I was actually able to have him naturally. Now, clearly, an induction was not part of my plans. However, because I was mentally prepared for a natural childbirth and I also physically prepared for a natural childbirth, I was able to actually have him naturally, even though I was induced. Now, before I go any further, just a disclaimer. Natural childbirth is not necessarily for everyone, and that's a very personal experience, a very personal decision that every potential mom has to make on her own. And even if you plan for a natural childbirth, there are certainly things that can happen during the labor and delivery process that necessitate changing plans to another way of having your child. The most important thing is a healthy baby and a healthy mommy. So please make sure that if you are considering a natural childbirth, you should still be open and flexible at the time that you have your baby, just in case things don't go as planned and you have to actually choose another method. This is definitely not trying to shame anyone who chooses any other method or chooses to have an epidural or any other type of medical intervention. I am speaking about my personal experiences and, of course, sharing tips and guidelines for persons who are considering having a natural childbirth. So, with that out of the way, let's get into it. Now, the first thing that I would want to say to you is, if you are thinking about having a natural childbirth, you need to have a plan. Planning for a natural childbirth increases the likelihood that you are going to be successful. Now, planning for it means 1, speaking to your OB or midwife about a natural childbirth, saying that that's a part of your intention. If it is that you know from early on, then it would be good to make sure that you are seeing a medical professional who is supportive of that decision and will provide tips and tricks, recommend classes, and also have a plan for your natural delivery. You should be on the same page with whatever medical professional that you use. Now, the second tip has to do with what type of medical professional you use. Now, one of the things that I found out when I got pregnant with my son was that choosing between an OB practice and a midwifery practice might actually make a difference in whether or not you are successful in having a natural childbirth. Now, midwifery practices tend to be more friendly or open to the ideas of a natural childbirth. A lot of times, midwives are trained in the methods that would help you to actually deliver naturally, even if your labor is not progressing the way that they expect. That is not to say that your OB will not be open to the idea of a natural childbirth, or will not support an idea of a natural childbirth, or will not be equipped to assist you with a natural childbirth. But of course, back to my first point, you have to know what the position is of your OB, where they're willing to go, where they're not willing to go, what they are comfortable with. Because again, you don't want to be in a situation where you are now in an altered state because you are experiencing all that comes with actually delivering a child, and you end up making decisions that you later regret. So again, you want to make sure that you check out your practitioner to make sure that they are comfortable or even favoring a natural childbirth. Now, along that same line, my third tip would be to make sure that you're choosing to deliver your child at a facility that actually accommodates natural childbirth, has nurses that are experienced with natural childbirth, and have facilities that support natural childbirth. And that might mean, for example, labor and delivery rooms that are equipped with tubs so that you can labor in the water. Some medical facilities might even allow you to deliver in the water so you can actually have a water birth. Some of them might have those adaptive showers where the shower heads can come off, to apply warm water to your back, which can help if you are in significant discomfort. Not just that, but they might have, for example, intermittent monitoring, or the mobile monitor that straps to your stomach, so that does not require you to lie down. And so being able to move around can help your labor to progress. So if the facility has those types of things in place, then they would be more natural birth friendly, as I would call it. Additionally, they might have, for example, peanut balls, medicine balls as well, that can help. When you are progressing, they might recommend that you bounce on the ball, or you place the peanut ball between your legs to help to widen the pelvis. Those are some of the things that can be done. But if the facility does not have those, then you either would have to bring those things, right? Or, of course, choose somewhere else that would accommodate a natural childbirth. And as I mentioned, having a nurse, for example, your nurse who's going to be there with you, and this is, of course, if you're delivering in the States. A lot of nurses in the US are trained, they know about natural childbirth methods. I can definitely say that my nurse was extremely helpful. I was induced, and so and I had contractions that were not productive, and my nurse was very supportive. She was an older lady. She was also a black nurse, so we were able to establish rapport. She told me that she had delivered all her children naturally as well, and that, you know, she knew some things that could help, you know, peanut ball, etc. And she tried all of those things on me to help to my labor to move along, and I was actually successful in delivering my son naturally, as I said, even though I was having some issues with my contractions, how they were coming and them not actually pushing him down. And I would like to add that my midwife also, I chose a midwifery practice, and my midwife was actually extremely helpful. In fact, she when I was in labor for several hours, not really several hours, more like 2.5 hours thereabout. So we started Pitocin at 2 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock I was 3 centimeters dilated. And when she came back at sometime after 4 and checked me, I was only 4 centimeters dilated. And immediately she and my nurse, they were able to put a plan into place, peanut ball between my legs, shifting from side to side, checked me again. Okay, then she moved on to, all right, let's do the sideline leg release. So they had their tools in their toolkit that actually, after she did the sideline leg release on me, which was to kind of use the force of her body and my contractions to brace against my hips to open up my pelvis. Once that happened, I moved into actually transitioning and pushing in less than an hour. So she was actually in shock when she was like, you were just 4, now you're pushing. She was in shock. So I would say that having the right professionals in the room who are trained, who are open to the idea of a natural childbirth, and who can help you if your labor is not going textbook, those will definitely help in you having a successful natural labor and delivery experience. So these are about the choices that you make as to who your attending is and the facility that you use. But another thing, and I'll switch now to some of the things that I did prior to having my son that helped. One was staying active. I was active all through my pregnancy. I have videos on my Instagram of me working out in the gym all the way up to the 3rd trimester. And in the 3rd trimester, especially in the last 6 weeks or so, things did change. It became a little bit more challenging to do weightlifting, etc. But I tried to ensure that I was walking on the treadmill, bouncing on the medicine ball, trying to do my pelvic floor exercises and stuff like that. So I tried to remain active for as long as possible. Towards the end, in the last few weeks, my body started to retain water. I was swollen. I didn't want to do anything. And I ended up just, using the medicine ball a lot, going for walks around the neighborhood with my husband, and those things definitely help. So I would say staying active is going to help you to have a natural childbirth. And so I was active. I should point out that I've been active in terms of working out in the gym since 2018. So when I got pregnant in 2019, I just chose not to stop. I continued through my first trimester. I told my trainer that I was expecting. I was in the first week. So the minute I got a positive test, I told my trainer, and he was like, okay. And we adjusted my workouts just to reduce any chances that this could pose any dangers to the fetus. And I kept on working out. And I was very, very happy to know that I had a very, very fast delivery. I felt like I was the fitness, the level of fitness that I had throughout my pregnancy actually definitely helped with delivery. And I should tell you that I got induced at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. My son was born at 7:59 p.m. And so if you count, you would realize that he came out really fast. Nobody expected that the induction was going to go so fast, and that he would be born so quickly. The nurse was telling me, oh honey, 12 hours. I'd be like, I don't see that happening. But that was partially due to the conditioning that I had done over the course of my pregnancy. No, the other thing that I did that I thought was extremely helpful was that I did as much study and research on natural childbirth as I possibly could. I watched tons and tons of YouTube videos. I read articles. I was doing research. And when I did my research, I found out about hypnobirthing, which is a method that can be used to help you to relax and also help your relaxed body to deliver your baby much faster. When you are in labor, your body tends to tense up, which is not what the body needs at the time that you're in labor. What you need is a relaxed body so that your baby can pass through. So hypnobirthing definitely helped. I bought an audio book on Audible, and I started listening to it from the second trimester. In my third trimester, I actually took a hypnobirthing class, which came with other audio tapes, and I started, so I was listening to the meditations, learning how to relax my body, and I was practicing in the tub, especially in the last few weeks, practicing before I went to bed at night. And I feel, and I will talk about hypnobirthing in a separate video, but I can definitely say that hypnobirthing definitely helped when it came to relaxation. And I was able to use a lot of the tools that I learned during my hypnobirthing class in my labor and delivery. And like I said, I will just do a separate video talking about hypnobirthing and how it works, and just kind of saying what I think about taking hypnobirthing classes. But as I said, and hypnobirthing is not the only class. There are other natural childbirthing classes. If you're in Jamaica, and I know that there are options in Jamaica that you can look for, but if you can't find an option in Jamaica, there are also online classes that you can take to help with your natural childbirthing. And I would definitely say, at the very least, start off with the hypnobirthing books. I did 2 books. There was the KGH hypnobirthing audio book that I bought on Audible, and then when I took the hypnobirthing class, there was the Marie Mongan method. Towards the end of my time up to when my son was born, I kind of stuck to the Marie Mongan method, which was what was taught in my classes, and they were very similar. But there are also other classes that have other methods, natural childbirthing method. So I would say whatever natural childbirthing method you choose, I would say don't just say, oh, I think I want to have a natural childbirth, and don't just watch the YouTube videos about other people saying that they've had a successful natural childbirth. You need to train for natural childbirth the way you train for anything else. And that's one of the things that when people would say to me, oh, you're saying that no, wait till when time comes. My OB in Jamaica, because I had a lot of my prenatal care in Jamaica, I would be in the US periodically, so I would go back and forth for the important appointments in the US, but I was in Jamaica for most of the time, so I would have my regular checkups there, and my OB would do her ultrasounds in her office. And I can't forget when she said to me, when she asked me, so are you going to deliver in the States? And I said, yeah, I think I am. And she's like, oh, great, you can choose to have an epidural. And I was like, no, I plan to have a natural childbirth. And what she said to me was, what are you trying to prove? And I was just like, number one, natural childbirth is a very personal decision. Number two, it is not your role to ask me questions like that or make me doubt my choices. Because at the end of the day, choosing to or not to choose a delivery that has medical intervention or doesn't have a medical intervention is totally up to the mom, right? But like I said, what I realized pretty quickly was that there were a lot of people who had doubts about whether or not I was going to be able to do it. And so I said, you know what? Just like how when I wanted to lose weight, or when I wanted to have that particular figure when it came to my wedding dress, just how I wanted to put my PCOS under control, and I was able, and I literally approached it in a very organized way, seeing a nutritionist, checking my BMI, my metabolic age, getting expert guidance, all of that. I approached preparing for natural childbirth the exact same way. Like I said, I was watching the YouTube videos. I read the hypnobirthing books, both the Marie Mongan method, listened to the KGH hypnobirthing books, as well as the relaxation tape. Practiced every single night, sometimes during the day. I literally studied and prepared for my natural childbirth, and I believe that attitude was what helped me, because even though I was open to, and one of the things that my husband was concerned about was that I would have my mind kind of stuck on a natural childbirth, and then that would mean that if something were to go wrong and I wasn't able to have a natural childbirth, I'd be crushed. But one of the things that I did was I was prepared, but in my mind I was like, look, I just want a healthy baby. I would love to have the baby on my terms. And if possible, I'm going to demand that it happens on my terms. But I was also willing, if necessary, to deal with whatever medical interventions came along. And so when I had to be induced, yes, I was disappointed. I cried a little bit, but I was like, okay, that's one thing that I can't do. I can't labor in the water, okay. But I'm still going to have my natural childbirth. I'm going to try all of these things, and only if all of these things don't work, then I'm going to be willing to deal with the medical interventions. And it worked for me. I was able to have a natural childbirth. So I would say train and prepare. Take whatever natural childbirthing classes, whatever method you're going to use. You should have a method in mind. You should have tools in your toolkit, and you should prepare using those tools. Practice using those tools. It might sound stupid, but to be honest, it works. It's easier to stick to a plan when something is learned. It becomes routine, and you know how you are going to manage the situation because you have a plan. You have a plan A, you have a plan B, you have a plan C, and you have tools in your toolkit. Now, the other thing that I did that I believe made a big difference was that I was able to hire a doula. Now, a doula is a non-medical professional who is there with you at the time of the birth of your child to assist you and to be your support and to be your advocate in the labor and delivery situation. So your doula normally helps you to establish what your birth plan is, and the doula will be there at the time that you're having your baby to ensure that your wishes are respected. Now, my husband works in the healthcare field, and I know that he would have been able to advocate on my behalf anyways. However, I wanted my husband to just be my husband in that situation. I didn't want him to have to put on his medical professional hat. And so I had a doula. Now, the doula wasn't only helpful to me at the time that I had my son, but also I had two doulas who worked with me in the weeks leading up to having my son. They came over, they checked on me, they helped me to set up his room, get all his stuff ready. They also made sure I was drinking enough water. They were like, is there, when I got really big and, I was kind of lumbering around, couldn't carry things, and I wanted to do, his room or get the house ready, they were there. They're like, let us know when we need to come. Do you need groceries? Like, do you need us to get the dishes? And of course, I didn't take them upon all of those things because it felt kind of weird. But I definitely liked that I had weekly visits. I had somebody who was checking on me. Are you drinking enough water? Are you doing this? They recommended, for example, a chiropractor towards the end, which I didn't do, and I ended up being sorry, because if I had done the chiropractor, I probably would have had a smoother delivery in terms of my pelvis being realigned and opened up at the time that Leighton was being born, which I spoke about the sideline leg release, which was needed because my pelvis wasn't opening up. And so I definitely would recommend, if you can afford one. In the States, doulas are not covered by health insurance. And the prices for doulas can range from in the 800s to the 1500s. It just depends. But I will say that my husband and I both felt that our doulas were money well spent, because number one, there wasn't a lot of pressure on my husband in the labor and delivery process. He could take a break, he could step outside of the room because the doula was going to be there. And since I was being induced, I didn't have my bags or anything, and he had to go back to the house. He had to go to Chick-fil-A to get me some food, and then he had to, go home to get my hospital bag and all of that. And he actually just, once my midwife told me, I think we need to send you over to have him, I was able to just text my doulas, let them know. They immediately made their way to the hospital. They got there, and then Leroy was able to leave and take care of what needed to be taken care of and come back. He was able to step out of the room from time to time to, text or call or talk to whoever he needed to talk to. And I had somebody who was there who was, helping me with my exercises, who was recommending things to do, and was there at the time of pushing to provide guidance and advice, separate and apart from what my husband was doing as well. And so I feel like my doula was a really, really, really good investment. Now, the final set of tips that I'm going to offer are things that you can do in terms of supplementation, and I use that very broadly to help you in your preparation. So one of the things, there were 3 things that I found online that persons recommended that I tried, and I found them. I can't say which one specifically helped, but I know that one or some, or maybe all of them, definitely helped in terms of delivering my son. One was red raspberry leaf tea. They don't recommend that you take red raspberry leaf tea in the earlier part of your pregnancy, but certainly in the 3rd trimester, they recommend at least a cup per day, and you can increase the number of cups per day that you are drinking towards the end. Red raspberry leaf tea helps to tone the uterus, so that when you are actually in labor, it can help to shorten, they say, the 2nd phase of labor, right? So helping the baby to come down. So I was drinking red raspberry leaf tea for all of the 3rd trimester, and towards the end I was drinking 3-4 cups a day, because, as I said before, I was past due and I wanted the baby out, and so I was doing all of the things that I needed to do in order to help delivery. The other thing that I did was that in the last month I started to eat dates, and I believe it was 6 dates every day. No, I hate dates. They taste awful. I've never found something that I despise so much, but guess what? I took them. So at first, I would eat the dates. Then I got sick of them. I started to hide them. I would chop them up and put them in my oatmeal in the mornings, or I would make a smoothie and blend in the dates. But whatever I did, I made sure that I was having my 6 dates every single day. And they also say that dates help to shorten the different phases of delivery. I can't remember which phase, to be honest. Don't quote me on it, but I know it shortened some phase of delivery, right, of labor. So I know that I did the dates. And the next thing that I did was the evening primrose oil. And actually, no, it wasn't the evening primrose oil, sorry. I bought it and chickened out because they said you could use the evening primrose oil capsules and you could insert them at night before you go to bed in that last month. And they say that you shouldn't do it before you get to like 36 weeks because it can induce contractions. So, but the evening primrose oil was also to help to tone the uterus and to make it more pliable, so that it will help you to go into labor naturally when the time comes. In the end, to be honest, I ended up not using it. I bought it. It's still in the medicine cabinet. As somebody who suffers from PCOS, I will take it, ingest it orally in the first weeks leading up to, in the first weeks of my cycle. But I ended up not inserting it. What I ended up doing, however, which was recommended in my hypnobirthing class, was to use vitamin E oil and to do some perineal stretching. And you see, I keep doing this in my hand because that is what ends up happening. And you can Google it, but myself and my husband, we got the vitamin E oil and stretched the perineum to make it more pliable and flexible so that it would reduce the likelihood that I would tear at the time that I had my son. We weren't as consistent. My husband works at night. I had issues doing it by myself. Just couldn't navigate around the heft of my stomach. And so the perineal stretching ended up not being done as consistently, and I did tear. And that would have to do with kind of how I delivered as well, which I'll cover in a different video. But I would definitely say for the perineal stretching, definitely go ahead and in that last month, you would use the vitamin E oil to moisturize the fingers and stretch the perineum. And the perineum is that area between the anus and the end of the V. So and it just makes it more flexible so that when the baby is coming out, it can stretch and not tear. Like I said, I was not lubricating as often as I should have. I did tear. There were some other factors which I'll discuss in a different video. But I know that if I am blessed enough to have another child, I'm going to do all of the things that I did the last time. And I'm going to also make sure to pay attention to the perineal stretching because we should have been more vigilant about it. And having borne the consequences of not doing it as consistently as I should have, I can definitely say you should pay attention to that. So hair not behaving, as you can see, hair needs to be combed, as you can see. But of course, I put on my workout clothes to make it look like I'm working out, just to not look so bad. But that is the end of all of my tips for a natural childbirth. I will share my labor and delivery story in another video, and I'll also share my tips and tricks or my experience with hypnobirthing. But I'm hoping that this helps some expectant mom who is thinking of a natural childbirth. Definitely train and prepare for it. It can be done. But even if you have your heart set on a natural childbirth, the final thing that I'll say to you is be open. Things might not go the way that you plan, and you have to be flexible and willing to adjust, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is healthy mommy, healthy baby. All right? So this is Naleen, your Jamaican scholar, saying don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Please click on the subscribe button. All right? And of course, I'll see you on the next one. Walk good.